Clarkson's Farm star and Sun columnist Jeremy said he booked a coach to travel to London to protest alongside agricultural workers from the Cotswolds.
They brought over 100 tractors. One by one, they left in convoy, British flags flying high. Farmers turned out in their numbers, but united behind one message. No farmers, no food, no future.
One day, all this will be Rachel Reeves. What, the curtains? Yep, she'll have those as well.
Jeremy Clarkson has become one of the most outspoken advocates for British farmers and is now taking his fight to the streets. This move comes as the Labour government implements policies that many in the farming community find deeply concerning. Clarkson's efforts aim to shed light on these issues and rally support for the agricultural sector. One of the key points of contention is Labour's decision to axe tax breaks for farmers and introduce a new inheritance tax on farms valued over £1 million. Under this policy, when these farms are passed down to family members, a 20% inheritance tax will now be levied. This change has sparked outrage among farmers, who argue that it threatens the livelihood of family-run farms and the future of British agriculture.
If you own a farm or land, you have an additional £1 million inheritance tax than anyone else does. So already they have additional land that they can pass on without paying.
This move has sent shockwaves through the farming community, sparking a large protest planned for Westminster on November 19, 2024. Farmers from across the country are expected to gather in a show of unity and defiance against the new inheritance tax policy. According to reports, Jeremy Clarkson will be present at the protest to stand shoulder to shoulder with farmers and voice his outrage. In fact, he may even deliver a speech rallying against what he has described as a deeply misguided policy, emphasizing the devastating impact it could have on British agriculture and family-run farms.
Well, lots of people will be dead by the time that come through. What we want to know is in the clause of this Parliament.
Under the banner of the Enough is Enough campaign, farmers are being urged to take decisive action. Organisers are calling on participants to bring whatever they have at their disposal, tractors, lorries, trailers, and even slurry tankers, to make their voices heard. The aim is to create an impact reminiscent of a French-style protest, with the possibility of manure being sprayed onto streets and even buildings to underscore the seriousness of their grievances. This is more than just a protest, it is a desperate cry for survival from a community that feels increasingly marginalised. For many farmers, this campaign represents a last stand against policies they believe threaten their way of life and the future of British agriculture.
To beef and lamb that tastes great.
It's all produced by a farmer.
So here's our message to Sir Keir Starmer. British farmers and growers are up in arms,
working to save the future of our family farms.
However, Clarkson has announced that he will be taking a more respectful approach. Instead of joining the convoy of farming vehicles heading to London, he stated that he will be travelling by coach. This decision, according to Clarkson, is to avoid causing unnecessary disruption on the motorways with large farming equipment. It reflects his attempt to balance making a statement with minimising inconvenience to the general public.
Clarkson's Farm star and Sun columnist Jeremy said he booked a coach to travel to London to protest alongside agricultural workers from the Cotswolds. And it seems that if you're from Just Stop Oil or protesting about Gaza, you can do whatever you want. But farmers are treated differently by a government that is basically waging an all-out war on the countryside. He said, "We wanted to protest in a dignified and sensible way, which was why I'd booked the coach rather than causing disruption with tractors and farming vehicles." And Jeremy, who owns Diddley Squat Farm in Chadlington, Oxfordshire, added, "I'm in a fortunate position, but I feel desperately sorry for other farmers who are very angry and anxious about."
One farmer expressed the collective frustration, saying, "We're being suffocated by policies that threaten our livelihoods, our future, and our ability to feed the nation. No farmers, no food, it's that simple." Another echoed the sentiment, stating, "The First Minister might get a wake-up call. Family farms are the backbone of this country, and we're not backing down without a fight." This movement goes beyond the protest in Westminster. Farmers are also calling for a week-long strike, with plans to halt the flow of produce from their farms, aiming to make the government and the nation feel the impact. Clarkson has been vocal in his criticism of the government, especially since Labour's shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves announced the budget in October.
So would you invite Keir to your pub, Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister?
No, he's banned. He's the first person to be banned. He's actually on a board in the hall. He's banned.
On social media, Clarkson threw his support behind the farmers with a tweet that read, "Farmers, I know you've been shafted today, but please don't despair. Look after yourselves for 5 short years and this shower will be gone." He also tweeted his criticism of Labour leadership, saying, "The problem is Reeves and Starmer are a bit dim. If they wanted to go after people like me, why not impose the tax on others with multiple income streams? If farming is your main job, you're exempt. If it isn't, you're not."
Is that because you essentially misled the country during the election and you've raised taxes in a way that no one was expecting?
We've had to do the responsible thing, which is to stabilise the economy, to make sure we're putting the investment in for the future. That's what matters to me. And the outcomes are what matters. 40,000 extra appointments each and every week to bring the waiting list.
A confused American fan questioned Jeremy Clarkson, to which he responded by saying, "We have a new government, it's turning out to be hopeless." Despite his ongoing health struggles, Clarkson remains firmly committed to supporting British farmers and is determined to make his voice heard. It's not often you see someone like Clarkson taking aim at the Prime Minister without a second thought for the fallout, but then again, he's never been shy about ruffling a few feathers.
You know who's been interesting this morning? He's a very wise man, Jeremy Clarkson. Well, Jeremy Clarkson has said, "I'm surrounded by farmers and plasterers and brickies." And he says, "I therefore suggest that both he and his friends at the BBC calm down the rhetoric or we could be heading for some serious trouble." And he's absolutely...
So what triggered his latest outburst? The answer is simple: the latest budget disaster from Keir Starmer's Labour Party, which many feel has abandoned pensioners and the working class. But here's the kicker: Labour's new tax proposal isn't just another tax hike, it's a direct assault on farmers. Under Reeves's proposal, farms worth over $1 million will no longer be exempt from inheritance tax.
73% of farms last year would not pay any inheritance tax at all, even after our changes. And after that next £1 million, there was a 50% discount.
Now, to put things into perspective, in the world of farming, £1 million doesn't buy you a sprawling estate or a luxurious mansion. It buys you fields, barns, and livestock, the lifeblood of a family business that's been passed down for generations.
Else will pay, and you can pay that inheritance tax over a 10-year period in a way that no one else is able to. So I think we've got the right balance there. We did need to raise taxes to fill the black hole, to put our public finances on a stable.
This policy could drive farmers to the brink. Around 70% of farms could be hit by this new tax, and many farmers might be forced to sell their land or risk losing everything they've built. For Clarkson, this is personal. He's not just making jokes or trying to score points, he's calling out a policy that could destroy entire farming legacies. These are people working the land from dawn to dusk, not the ultra-wealthy with private jets and yachts.
The farmers still get a privileged status for their farms, and I think that may or may not be right. I'm personally in favour of doing to farmers who want to go on the streets, we can do to them what Margaret Thatcher did to the miners.
So just to be clear, Johnny, you would, beat them up?
No, there's an industry we could do without.
So, okay, all right, so this got weird. So you would do to farmers what Margaret Thatcher did to miners, which was, she used very heavy-handed police tactics, followed by what? Putting them out of business.
If people are so upset that they want to go on the streets and spray slurry on them, then we don't need the small farmer.
After a shocking remark made during the interview, John Murnan, former political secretary to the Prime Minister, found himself at the centre of a storm of criticism. Keir Starmer, when pressed about the comment, firmly distanced himself from Murnan's statement, expressing complete disagreement. Somebody confronted Jeremy with a very sarcastic comment about people feeling sorry that he has to pay inheritance tax. He responded saying, "You know those chips you enjoy? Guess where they came from before they got to your local kebab shop."
John McTernan, a former aide to Tony Blair, of course the Labour Prime Minister, says your party wants to do to the farmers what Thatcher did to the miners. It's an industry we can do without. Is that what you think about farming?
No, I totally disagree. I'm absolutely committed to supporting our farmers. I said that before the election, and I say it after the election. That is why in our budget last week I was very pleased that we're investing £5 billion of our budget over the next 2 years into farming. That is really important for our farmers, and I will do everything I can to.
John McCann's startling comment dismissing the need for UK farmers has sparked widespread controversy and heated discussions. In stark contrast, Keir Starmer has made his stance crystal clear. He strongly disagrees with McCann's remarks, emphasising his unwavering support for British farmers and highlighting their vital role in the nation's economy and food security. Starmer went on to reaffirm his commitment to championing the farming community, promising to work diligently to provide them with the support and resources they need. Somebody also suggested that Labour should raise the threshold to £3 million and then anyone else is rich enough to pay. Jeremy replied with, "No, there are many farmers whose land and assets are worth more than £3 million, but their earnings are pitiful."
Lots of family farms very upset, saying that some of them will go out of business as a result of the changes to inheritance tax. You're not going to budge on that, are you?
This government had to make a number of difficult decisions in the budget last month to put our public finances back on a firm footing. Difficult decisions on spending, on welfare and on tax. But I would just say this around agricultural poverty relief. If you're a couple who own a farm, including a home on the farm, you can pass on £3 million tax-free to the next.
What makes this even more infuriating is that for many farmers, their land isn't just an asset, it's their heritage. Imagine working the same fields for over a century, only to be told you might have to sell it all because of a policy crafted by politicians who've never stepped foot in a muddy field. Clarkson isn't holding back, and he's demanding that politicians recognise the human cost of their decisions.
Certainly farmers must feel that they have been readily attacked by Starmer in the budget.
Yeah, I think what's really frustrating is that he went to the NFU conference in February and said he'd protect family farms. He's not just taxing us as a farming community. I'll tell you what he's doing. He is taxing the poorer people in society, because this is only going to cause more food inflation, more hikes in food costs, and who are going to suffer? The poorer people.
While some may dismiss Clarkson's efforts as a publicity stunt, there's no mistaking the passion in his words. The big question is whether his call to action will force policymakers to listen or if it will simply be drowned out by the noise of London-centric politics. Only time will tell. Clarkson's farming partner, Caleb Cooper, has also weighed in on the state of British farming.
Farming is the most important job in the world. Because let's face it, it doesn't matter what car you have. It doesn't matter what phone you've got in your pocket. It doesn't matter what house you're living in. But what matters the very most is what's coming across your plate. Breakfast, lunch and dinner.
Let me know what you think about Clarkson's stance in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more updates on the issues that matter most.